Hi, I'm Cody Remaklus with Buyer's Agent Remaklus Realty, coming to you again to answer one of our subscribers' questions. Francis, thank you for the great questions. And can I just preface my answer with, I think it warrants, those questions were so good that they warrant more than one response. So I'm going to begin where you had begun. And that is the question of where should I begin as a newcomer to the home buying process. So one of the first things you can do is find someone to work with. Maybe that's the first daunting thing for buyers out there. And I can understand, I can relate, but it's not the same as walking onto a car lot. You're not walking into the seller's den to then ask the seller for permission to buy the house and to work with an agent. And it doesn't need to be so defensive as at least in my experience on a car lot. So you probably already know a realtor, and if you don't, you can certainly find me at my website and I'd be happy to work with you directly. But my advice is to find someone to start working with, and there are some things to know about what your agent should know in the guidance process of you as a consumer. So when I work with people, one of the first things I do is ask them if they have a lender already that they're speaking to. Now that's not the first question I ask, but it is something, since I'm addressing you more directly right now, and I think people probably have this similar question, is that thing is when you find someone that you're going to work with and you find the house that you like enough to make an offer, or that fits your needs rather, then you need to have a pre-qualification letter to accompany your offer letter. And what the pre-qualification letter is sometimes the most scary part for people in the buying process. And that's the lender pre-qualifying you as someone they will give money to. So I suggest finding a realtor first, because they can also help you find different financing options, so different lender options. Because there's not just one out there, and any good lender will give you multiple options for buying a home if you are able to at this time. If you go through this process, let's say you find a realtor and then you also find a lender to talk to, and the lender tells you that you don't qualify. Well, they should be able to help you, and your realtor should be able to help you with ideas of how you can credit season or get yourself into a financeable position. So whatever the reason is, your credit score is too low, or you had a short sale, or foreclosure, and understanding those timelines if you don't already, but your realtor should be able to help you navigate. If you do not qualify for a loan right now, how can you go about getting yourself prepared to qualify down the road, and how long is that time period? So coming back to your question again, where should I begin? Find a realtor, get a pre-qualification letter, but in that process, you should be working with a realtor that's helping you funnel down your wants versus your needs. So one of the things you can do as a buyer to help yourself begin or get ready is maybe starting to parcel out your wants versus your needs in a home. And a good realtor should be able to help you do that really clearly. A needs could be the ability to resell your home if your life changes in 3 to 13 years. Most people's do. Most people's lives change in that time period. My recommendation is to find a home that you will be able to resell. So that means it'll be as desirable as you can afford, and that you can find to the most amount of people, and also to you, of course. That's generally like a general basis for what it means for resale value. So that could mean a house on a cul-de-sac on the corner in the cul-de-sac, so it's a little bit bigger lot, or the size of the lot, the views, all those things can add to resale ability. And that's not always something you're thinking about when you're thinking of moving into a home, is like, can I resell this? But it really is a major criteria from a realtor's perspective in helping you find a good investment, because really you want your investment to be able to be turned into a home. So that's where the wants and needs can kind of get balanced out. Can I resell it? Does it have everything I want? Can I rent it out? Let's say if I have the money to buy a second home and be able to afford 2 mortgages because the rent is paying my first mortgage. Is it a rentable property? To me, rentable, resellable, those are both needs in my book as a realtor, and I try to train my clients to think in that same way. And then versus a want, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. And all that's important. However, if you get 3 bedrooms, 3 baths in a house that has been on the market for 365 days and they can't sell it, well, then maybe you should start considering if your wants are outweighing your needs. So another question that you asked, Francis, was, well, you asked two other questions, and I think they're both really important and they show a lot about you. And I think good questions always do show a lot about the person asking. So you had asked, what should I start looking for? Well, I'll harken back to what I said before. You start looking for an agent that you feel comfortable working with. Because falling in love with a house first is kind of like putting the cart before the horse. So you don't fall in love with a house before you know if you qualify for a loan or before you are truly represented, and I hope exclusively represented as a buyer. Because if you fall in love with a house, I think the tendency is to then click the agent closest to the Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com ad, and then you feel like you're talking to maybe the best person. I've posted what I think about that topic, and I've answered that, or I've addressed that at other times. Another great question you asked, Francis, is what question should I be asking myself? I think I answered some of that as well in the first part before I get to know anybody, I think part of how I get to know them is a similar activity that you could use in getting to know what exactly it is that you're looking for. I think we take a lot of our wants for granted. So I think what you can do is start to ask yourself, well, what's really the most important part about why I'm considering buying a home? Is it because you want to save money in the sense that you don't want to be throwing your money away in rent, which I think is a great reason to buy a home? Is it because property values are rising and I don't want to wait too long and then not be able to afford the house? That might be a pragmatic reason, but I also hate to see people make fear-based choices. And the fear being that the housing market's going up and I need to get in while I can. I do not suggest preemptively buying a house. I think it can be a very intuitive and intimate process. And so I don't suggest buying the house under the gun or buying the house because you're worried that the market's going up. Because if you can wait, one of the best seasons to buy in this area, because we have all 4 seasons, I'll tell you a bit of a secret, is to wait until the fall or the winter to buy. The inventory isn't as high, which means there's not as many places on the market, but those that are on the market have to sell typically. They don't just want to sell. Like in this current market in the spring or summer, prices tend to soar because you have the most amount of people looking and you also have the highest amount of inventory. Sellers and sellers agents oftentimes withhold listings until a certain time of the year to try and see if they can't get as much money as they can for their clients. So it's my job to make sure that you pay market value or just under, more so than helping anyone puff their price. So that's a bit of advice, that if you don't have to buy right now because you're worried about the prices going up, I would say temper your worry and maybe shop around a little while, shop for that realtor, shop for the lender, and while you shop online and start to see what prices do throughout a season, throughout especially the high season we call it, or it's a name for it anyway. So waiting until the fall or the winter can oftentimes be a good strategy for a buyer. If one of your main reasons for buying a place or your main motivations is to save money, those times a year you can typically not have as much competition as you will right now on a house that you love. Because chances are, if you love a house, then someone else does too. So I hope that helps in at least getting started. At least I know that sometimes the hardest part is to begin. And I think that's true in any walk of life, certainly in the creative world and in the decision-making world. And I think that there is a certain amount of creativity that is involved in any decision you make, especially as one as important or large as buying a home. So in moving forward, where you begin is certainly internally and with your wants and needs, but also externally with finding someone that you feel like you can trust, that you can meet face to face with. So a realtor that you meet face to face with and you feel like you have a good rapport, and that's knowledgeable about the area and about the process of buying a home, and that they're able to translate that knowledge to you. So it's a good, clean communication between the two of you. And then finding a lender that you can work with, or at least finding out if a lender that you approach will lend to you, and if not, why? And then you start solving that problem if there is one. Hi, and thank you so much for watching our video. If you found it to be interesting, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel below. To stay tuned and updated on our blog and our page activities, please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. All of our links to those are below in the description. Thanks again, and see you next time.